There was a group of young people, teenagers, high schoolers probably. They were having a party, a Halloween party. And they decided to throw this Halloween party at one of their classmates' houses. And this classmate, they picked their house because well, it was right next to the cemetery. And you could see from the front windows of the house, you could look out and see the cemetery. And so as the night went on, they were probably drinking underage. Not a good idea. We do not approve of that. But that made them a little more reckless, a little more careless. So they started off playing these party games where you get a bowl of peeled grapes and someone says, "Oh, this is a dead man's eyes," and then they would go on to tell some ghost stories. Now, as the night got later and later, they started to get more reckless, so they started daring each other to do different things. And eventually, somebody dared Sally to walk across that graveyard. They said, if you walk across, if you go at night, the people who are buried there, sometimes they'll reach up out of the ground. They'll grab your dress. Sally, she was wearing a long dress. She was in some kind of costume that involved this long, flowing skirt. And they told her, Sally, that's true. And Sally said, come on. I mean, Sally, she was a little more brave than most. She said, that's not true. There's dead people don't just reach up out of the grave. This isn't a zombie movie. And they said, all right, well, some punk kid, Billy, let's call him. He said, Sally, I dare you. I dare you to go walk across that graveyard. Go all the way across. We'll be watching you. You go walk across that graveyard, and if you're really brave, and he pulls out his pocket knife, he said, if you're really brave, walk right into the middle of the graveyard. See, that's where an old murderer is buried. Walk it. If you stand on his grave, take my pocket knife, stick it into the ground so we'll know that you went all the way out there. I mean, we're going to go check in the morning. We're not going to go tonight. But if you do that, then, we'll think you're cool. Who doesn't want to be cool in high school? So she did it. She walked out. The wind's blowing. It's all quiet and cold out there. She pushed that creaky gate out into the cemetery. Everyone else is just standing at the door of the house. Now they're laughing and they're drinking their drinks. But the further she walked into that graveyard, that their voices got distant, till she could barely hear them at all. It's a big graveyard. She walked out there. She's kind of jogging across. Really wants to get this over with. She goes out. She gets to that grave right in the center of it. She sees the big tombstone. Sees the name on it. She thinks, is that the murderer? Is he buried right underneath my feet? She just took that pocket knife. She said, let's get this over with. Stuck that pocket knife into the ground. Done. She turned to leave. She saw the lights of the house in the distance. Okay, I'm done. I can just walk toward those lights. She tried to walk away and she couldn't. Something was holding her back. Something was grabbing onto her skirt. It was holding her back. She couldn't get away. She tried to pull, but something was pulling back on her. And she could have sworn she heard something. She could have sworn there was a voice or something. She fainted. Everybody waited and waited for her. She didn't come back and she didn't come back. So eventually they had to go looking for her. They got their flashlights and they all walked across the graveyard together, safety in numbers. They walked up and they found her lying there on the grave. They shone those flashlights on her. They saw that she had stabbed that pocket knife through the hem of her dress. And it was that pocket knife that was what was holding her back. And that's something for us to remember as we think about these scary stories. And sometimes they can really get a little frightening. But it's good to remember that sometimes fear really is the biggest thing that we have to fear out there. And when we shine the light into the dark, we will find that most of the time, there really is not much to be afraid of after all. But every now and then there is. So just in case, keep a friend or two close on Halloween. Happy Halloween.